Two things. That's it. Just two things stand between you and a classroom that runs smoothly. And I can almost guarantee that neither of them is what you're thinking. Because it's not information. You have plenty of information. You've been at this teaching gig for a while now, so you have enough information. You also have the activities and the knowledge and even the strategies at your fingertips. So information is not the problem. Today, I want to name the two things that actually are, because I think once you see them clearly, the decision in front of you gets a lot simpler. Hey friends, welcome to Enjoy Teaching Again, the podcast for teachers who love the work but need a little spark to bring the joy back. I'm your host, Elizabeth Peterson, classroom teacher, arts integration specialist, and passionate educator of over 25 years. If you're overwhelmed by behaviors, disengaged students, and long, exhausting days, you are not alone. But together, we can turn things around and you can teach with confidence and purpose again. So locate that cold coffee of yours, find your favorite pen, I know you have one, and let's dive in. It's time to get inspired and enjoy teaching again. So I just finished giving the 3 days of workshops inside the Classroom Reset Challenge, and it has been so good. I really feel that teachers got a lot out of it in terms of finding their CRE scores, learning about their classroom's tripod, and discovering more about what's underneath the behaviors that they're seeing in the classroom. Hopefully, they also have some tangible strategies that they can use that will really directly affect the types of behaviors that they're seeing in their specific classroom. Now, here's the next step, and it has to do with everyone who's listening, because we teachers are smart. Yes, we are, and we're capable. And as we prep for the new school year, we think we have everything we need to have a strong start. And that's true. But here's what I've come to understand as I work with more and more teachers. And this is the part that no one really talks about, okay? It's having what you need to start. It's not the same as having what you need to finish. Because when you hit that wall in, say, October, that isn't a starting problem. It's a sustaining problem. You know the wall that I'm talking about? When the honeymoon is over and something just shifts and the energy starts to change and you're in knee deep, maybe neck deep, and the nice, neat plans that you had, they kind of start to unravel. The pacing guide suddenly seems a little unrealistic. And that feeling that you had on the first day, that hopeful, I've got this feeling, it kind of starts to disappear. Listen, it happens. I've started a lot of school years. In fact, this coming one is going to be number 28 for me. And I've had that first day feeling. It's exciting. It's hopeful. And I've also had that October feeling of, oh gosh, here we go again, more times than I'd like to admit. So this is about how to sustain, not start, but sustain so that you can, enjoy your teaching. So I promised you two things to help your classroom continue to run smoothly. And that first thing is not a strategy. It's not a new program to implement or a curriculum that you need to teach your kids. It's a framework. And there's a difference, and it matters more than almost anything else I could tell you right now. A strategy, it's something you try, right? A framework is something you live inside of. A strategy can work for 2 weeks and then unravel when things get hard. A framework tells you what to do when the things get hard because it was built for those moments. Not just the good ones, but the tough ones too. Let me give you an example. Beans in a jar, okay? That's a behavior strategy. And honestly, it works. It works for a while. Kids get excited. They want to fill the jar. Behavior improves. But what happens when it stops being new and novel? What happens when the kids who really needed connection, who needed to feel seen and safe before they could manage their own behavior, what happens when they don't get that from the jar of beans, right? The jar starts to empty, or it stays empty. The behavior comes back. And you're left wondering why that perfectly good strategy just stopped working for you. A framework, however, doesn't replace the beans in a jar. What a framework does is it tells you why the beans stopped working. It says, okay, this behavior has to do with connection, and no behavior incentive in the world is going to hold if you're addressing the wrong issue. So instead of switching to a different strategy, what you need to do is address the actual source, right? That's what the framework does. It tells you where to go. You build the relationship. You use the parts of the framework that address connection and classroom culture. You do those small, consistent, and intentional things that make a student feel like they belong in your room. And then you watch the behavior shift. Not because of a new strategy that you tried, but because the foundation changed underneath the behavior. And that's what a framework does. It doesn't give you more things to just try. It tells you what to try and why you should be using that. And what to do when it gets hard, too. That's what the Reset framework does. And that's what my guided course, the Classroom Reset, is built around. Inside the Classroom Reset, you walk step by step through the framework and reset different parts of your classroom that intentionally improve student behavior. What are those steps? Well, the first step is reflect, because giving you time to reflect on your teaching in creative ways is one of the most powerful things a teacher can do to get back on the path to enjoying teaching. The next step is to establish a caring classroom culture. That's where connection lies. But this step also goes, oh my gosh, into so much more. And then there's supporting your students' SEL by giving them tools to self-regulate and manage their own behaviors. Because isn't that great when your students can actually manage their own behaviors? Next in the framework is all about using micro engagement strategies to truly engage your students through creativity and play and the arts. And finally, the last step is tighten, where you look specifically at your classroom and your students to tighten up a plan that works for you. The framework helps you to build a solid foundation. And a foundation is what holds when the first hard Tuesday of the school year arrives and you're tired and someone is escalating and the lesson isn't working and you just cannot remember what you decided over the summer. The framework remembers for you. The strategies, they don't. This is the exact framework that I use in my own classroom. When I feel something is off, I look to the framework to guide me in the right direction. And I'll tell you, this past year, this very framework, the Reset framework, helped me to turn around one of my most disruptive students into, are you ready for this? An eager learner. I couldn't believe it, but it worked. And I talk more about that in episode 128. And that was happening deep in the school year, all the way in May that I saw this change. The framework also helped a teacher named Rachel this past school year. She teaches high school English, and she needed to re-engage her unmotivated students to bring a novel that they were studying together to life. And I talk about her, I actually interview her in episode 133. So go ahead and check those episodes out. Now that's thing one. Not more strategies, an actual framework to live inside of. And that framework, the full Reset framework, all 5 steps, built out into a complete classroom management system that actually improves student behavior, is what lives inside the Classroom Reset guided course. And right now, we're actually in the middle of an amazing sale, our challenge sale, where not only do you get access to the full framework, But you also get over $600 in amazing bonuses, including things like the Behavior Blueprint, the SEL Resource Pack, and the Self-Care Bundle. It's all included. I'll have some details down in the show notes. And one bonus that I just unlocked for this cohort of teachers only who are enrolling right now, it's so good that I don't even want to say it on the podcast because I'm actually not sure if I'll ever offer it again. If you want to see what that is all about, go to theinspiredclassroom.com/yes. Oh, I would love for you to say yes to making sure that this school year runs smoothly in your classroom, not just at the beginning of the year, but all year long. Enrollment for this challenge is open right now, and then it closes Sunday. And I really, really, really want to include you in this cohort. So go check it out. Now, the second thing standing between you and a classroom that runs smoothly is also not a strategy. It's support. Now, I know how independent most teachers are, right? We're trained to figure out things on our own. We close our doors, we handle it. We don't just ask for help because asking for help can sometimes feel like admitting something that isn't working. Or we might actually feel like we won't get the help anyway. All right, I understand. I understand that completely because I've lived it. Actually, I live it. But here's what I've lived and watched happen over and over again with teachers who go it alone. They implement something new. It works for a few weeks. You hit a wall. One hard day lands, and then they go to their teacher friends. Because of course they do, right? Of course we do. We all do. And thank goodness we have each other, right? And those conversations, oh my gosh, they are so real, right? And they very much matter. Sometimes I don't know how I would get through the day without some of those conversations. But here's what usually happens, okay? Stick with me for a moment. You get a quick idea from your teacher friend, maybe a resource that they liked, or maybe even like a fun paper that you want to try. Has that ever happened to you? Okay, ready? You're in the copy room, right? You see something kicking around and you're like, oh yeah, I want that for my kids. It happens all the time for me. That's the power of having teacher friends and sharing resources. Or maybe you go to a teacher friend and it's more like a commiserate session over lunch that ends with, oh gosh, I know, it's so hard. And then the bell rings and everyone goes back to their rooms. That's not support. That's venting. And I am a huge proponent of having a venting buddy. I even have an episode about it. It's episode 61. I'll put all of these episode numbers in the show notes, by the way. But back to venting. Venting, as good as it feels in the moment, it doesn't really change what happens in your classroom, right? We all know that. Real support is being able to go to someone who can help you go deeper than the surface. And I'm not talking about having deep conversations over drinks about, the parents or the administration. That's a venting buddy. And we've probably all been there too. I'm talking about someone who knows the framework underneath what you're trying and can say, okay, well, that behavior, that is a regulation problem, and consequences may not be working in this situation for a reason. So here's what to try instead. Support means having someone who's still there in November when the thing that you started in September is getting hard to sustain. That's what's missing. It's not your teacher friends. You have those. I hope you have those. Keep those. The missing piece is support from someone who can help you figure out what's actually going on in your classroom, not just hand you another idea to try or be the ear to listen to you and commiserate. All of those things are important, but do you have that actual support? The teacher I spoke about earlier, Rachel, the high school English teacher, she was inside the Classroom Reset course and she came to me frustrated. She was frustrated about some student behaviors. Her kids weren't getting into the novel they were reading. They didn't seem to care, right? They had the behaviors that were showing up where, well, it was kind of driving her crazy, right? She didn't understand why they couldn't get into this book. There were probably eye rolls, side conversations, and some flat out refusal to participate. Have you been there? I think we all have, right? And here's what I noticed when we started talking. Rachel had been looking at it as like a refusal issue. She kept trying to figure out how to get them to care more. But when we looked at the behaviors together, like really looked at them together, what we found was actually an engagement leg problem. You know the legs I'm talking about. They're from the classroom tripod. The behaviors were buried inside that engagement leg. Her students didn't feel like learning was for them. It felt disconnected from anything that they actually even cared about. So instead of another strategy to just boost motivation, like beans in a jar for participation, or, just overly rewarding and calling out in a positive way those kids that were really invested in the class, we tried something different. We brought in some creative, arts integrated approaches, some movement, some storytelling, visual responses, things that matched how her students actually wanted to engage with the content. And the engagement, it increased so much. And when the engagement increased, those behaviors, the annoyances, the disruptions, the disengagement, they actually started to disappear. Not because we addressed the behavior, but because we addressed the actual root issue. See, Rachel didn't need more classroom management strategies. She needed someone to help her look underneath the behavior and figure out what was actually going on. Because let's face it, sometimes we're so in the weeds with what we're doing or so frustrated at what is right in front of us that we can't really diagnose the issue. But having the support so that you're able to step back and really look at what's going on, oh gosh, that's the support I'm talking about. Not a resource, not a venting session. It's about having someone who can help you to see what's actually going on and then work through it with you. So have you ever had a moment like Rachel, a time when you were so annoyed with the behaviors that you just threw your hands up and didn't really know what to do? I bet you have. We all have. Now, I want to put something out in front of you, okay? Not to create pressure, but just because I think you deserve to see this a little clearly, okay? I want you to think about, what does having the idea of, I'll figure this out on my own, actually cost? Okay, well, it costs another October, another November, another January where you're running on empty, right? Have you ever felt that feeling where you're like, okay, these days are crawling by, but the weeks fly? You're suddenly like in another month and you feel like nothing has changed. And yet the days, they continue to crawl on. And there's so much to do and the behaviors keep coming. It's a weird energy and it wastes your energy and it exhausts you and it burns you out. That's the daily teacher drain I want to relieve you from. I want you to have the same outlook and optimism that you carry on day one. I want you to have that all the way through the year. Does that seem impossible? Now listen, I'm not Pollyanna here. Oh God, did I just date myself? I think I did. But I know that there are tough days, right? There are always tough days. But when you have a framework, a real foundation, and you have the support, you have what it takes to tackle those tough days and come out the other side refreshed and ready to go in again. That's what I set out to provide for you inside the Classroom Reset. And I'm not saying this to be dramatic. I'm saying it because I have seen what teachers look like at the end of the year when they have real support. And, of course, I've seen what they look like when they don't. And the difference, it's not a small difference. It's pretty huge. Imagine the version of yourself that walks into school in September with a real foundation and the safety net of support underneath you, instead of just having a good attitude and a fresh start. Okay, so think about it. Here's what I want you to do before the weekend, okay? Because our challenge sale is going on through the end of the day on Sunday. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to name where the gap might be for you, okay? So out of these two things, framework or support, which one has been missing the most? Just name it honestly. And if it's both, then it's both, okay? The second thing I want you to do is ask the question about what this costs for you, right? What has not having that thing, the framework, or the actual support I've been talking about, what does that cost you? Has it actually cost you to not have that solid, trusty framework foundation to keep coming back to? Or to not have that support where you can ask real questions and get real, honest answers? What has that cost you in energy, in your classroom management, in how you feel walking in on a Monday morning, or any morning for that matter? Write it down or say it out loud, just one sentence. And then the third thing I want you to do is I want you to decide. I want you to decide if the classroom reset is your best next step. Not based on whether you feel ready right now, but based on whether another year without it is a price you want to actually keep paying. Yeah, I'm getting a little real right now because I truly believe that if you are missing what a real framework can do for you, or the right type of support can do for you to make this next school year the best one yet, then I wholeheartedly want to invite you to join me inside the Classroom Reset. This course has everything you need to go into the school year with a real foundation underneath you. Not just a fresh start and some good intentions, a framework, the support, the community, everything, the resources that go along with everything. And it's got me too, right there with you through it all. I have watched teachers completely transform their classrooms with this framework, and I want that for you. Now, enrollment for this challenge sale closes on Sunday. So I want you to go to theinspiredclassroom.com/yes and come on in. I hope this episode inspired you, encouraged you, or gave you a fresh idea to try. And if so, I would love for you to take a screenshot and text it to one of your teaching buddies. I'm so grateful that you landed here with me today, and it would mean the world to me if you would leave me a review over on Apple Podcast. Thanks so much for being here, and I'll catch you on the next episode. This is Elizabeth Peterson reminding you to get inspired so you can be inspiring to your students and enjoy teaching again.